All right, this is a very important training because it's helping you to be the trainer, not helping you to be trained. That's very important. Now, the first thing that is on the screen is that the Lord wants us to bear remaining fruit. And that's very important because we baptize so many people, we need to keep them. That's an important thing. And the way to keep them is not in the meeting hall, but in the home. That's why the training in the home is very, very important because the training in the home is the way to keep these fruits to become remaining. Now, I know that there are many places have home meetings, and these home meetings are mainly for shepherding, feeding, loving, and so forth. But in addition to that, you need to train them. Now, the thing is, a lot of people say, I can't train anybody. If there is training, it has to be in the meeting hall, it has to be by the co-workers. No, we're saying that it has to be by you. It has to be by you. So let's go through the PowerPoint first. Here is the list of all the trees that bear fruit and the number of years it takes for the fruit to ripen from the time that you plant the tree. And as you can see, all of them are more than 2 years. And apple tree is 2 to 5 years, apricot tree is 2 to 5 years, and so forth. And so what we're talking about is to bear remaining fruit. It's not just to baptize people or to contact people. You need that. But after you have your contacts, how are you going to keep them? And in the past we said, oh, bring them to the meeting. Well, bring them to the meeting is important. And this series is on bringing them to the meeting, the third series. The first series is just to teach them some basic skills so that they can be part of your group. Because when they become part of your group, they have to do what you do. Then the second thing is they have to learn to bear fruit. And each series is 12 weeks, half a year. And so, by the time that you help him to bear fruit, it has to be about a year's time before he can bear some remaining fruit. But look at the next frame. It's very important. And that is this. The first year, if you just bear one fruit, let's say a cherry, you got a cherry. And that's all you got, a cherry. But the second year, you help Jerry to get Tom. And so Jerry and Tom becomes your work the second year. And what you're doing is helping Jerry to get Tom. It's not you directly getting Tom. So the arrow is 2 arrows. So you're actually helping Jerry to get Tom. And that's perfecting people. That's very important. In the New Jersey training, we talk about the 4-dimensional church life. The first dimension is begetting, nourishing, teaching, and then prophesying. But then the second dimension is to perfect others. If we never know how to perfect others, our church life will be one-dimensional. One-dimensional has no blueprint. If you want a blueprint, at least you need 2-dimensional. Then you need to have 3-dimensional, and the third dimension is that we need to be in spirit in everything that we do, whether in having morning revival with them, or whether to pray with them, or whether to read the Bible with them. Then the 4th dimension, if you only have 3 dimensions, then yes, it's you have a real church life. But it fizzles out after three weeks. And so you need the 4th dimension, which is you need to continue steadfastly. But the important thing is you perfect them. So that is what the home training, the training in the home is about. It's helping you to perfect others. And so this person, after he get trained, next half a year later, he can become your helper. And he can help to train the one that he has helped to bring in. So you may say, oh, this is so slow, 2 years just to get 2 people. Well, hang on, look at this. The 3rd year, that 3rd generation, you get some more, and then you have empty hand, your hands are free, then you can get some more. And by the 4th years, it's 8 people. Then by the 5th year, it would be 13 people. Now, if you would do these home trainings continuously, steadfastly for 5 years, guarantee, I guarantee you, this is fruit bearing, this is science, this is not just empty talk. This is science, the science of fruit bearing. And so one person in 5 years becomes 13 person, and you multiply yourself 12 times. This is divine economy. All right, now this is a quote from Brother Lee speaking to Singapore in 1985. And he said this. He said, the truth we preach may be very spiritual, and they do not have any emphasis on the word education. But because they are truth, there inherently is a good deal of substance that is educational in nature. In other words, we have to see the whole thing about the Lord's recovery as a means of education, educating people. So this person, he got saved. Yes, he got a new life. But practically, he's a human being and he needs to be educated. And education doesn't mean just education in the mind. It means education in your skill, in your motor ability, not just your mental ability. Since it is educational, there needs to be an educational system. Everybody knows what an educational system is in school. You grow up with an educational system. But when you come into the church and we talk about educational system, everybody says, oh, what is that? And then now we talk about training in the homes. People say, oh, that's a new thing. We've never done that before. Well, that is to educate people in the home. And that's exactly what Brother Lee was talking about, is that we need to build up an educational system. Now, I don't know what happened in this country, in the U.S., in the early days. I think that in the early days, in the pioneer days, they have no school, and so just the parents teach your children. But as this urbanization become bigger and the city become bigger, there's a lot of people coming, and you need an educational system. You cannot just teach people in the homes. And that system eventually becomes what every child goes through. He goes through this system. So now what we need to do in the churches is to build up an educational system, because let's suppose a child just get fed, but he has never gone to school. Well, it's you have you have a problem society. That would only be the Aboriginal society. Then it was natives. They don't have school. But modern society, you need education. So the same thing in the Lord's recovery. There's a desperate need to build up an educational system. All right, now, so this training in the home. What is the training in the home? That is to build up this educational system. Now, here's 5 points you need to remember. The rest, the brothers will go through those training manuals and how to do it with you. But these 5 points you must remember. The first thing is you're doing it yourself. You're not the trainee, you're the trainer. That's why we give you a whole bunch of manuals so that you can learn to be the trainer. Don't say you cannot do it. Everybody can do it. Nobody start out being able to do it. Everybody start out not being able to do it. And then you try, and then you stumble, and then you make a few mistakes, and then you learn. You learn not only to be a good student, you learn to be a teacher. And you say, no, I've never been a teacher. I'm a sister. I only cook for people. I only take care of people by nourishing them, cherishing them. Well, if you learn, you will find out that you can do it. Number one, we're asking you to do it yourself, not asking the co-workers or the full-timers to do it for you. Even if you have a full-timer, don't depend on the full-timer, depend on yourself. The full-timer can be a helper, but don't depend on the full-timer. Number two, you have to do it according to the new way. Well, what is the new way? Well, what is the old way? The old way is what we have been doing in the big meeting halls, giving conferences, giving messages, going through outlines, long outlines, and then everybody sit there and listen. Well, 10 years ago when I started this series for training in the homes, I wanted to learn. I said, we've been doing this for many years, decades. How did people outside teach their children? So I gathered up a few people who majors in education and who are teachers, professional teachers, and I asked them, tell me, how do you prepare your lessons? How do you teach your students? Well, they told me the modern system of education is interactive. Well, the Bible does not have the word interactive, but the Bible has the word mutuality. That means you never try to give a lesson. Now in an elementary school, if you try to give a lesson, you have to spend a lot of time doing preparation to incite their interest in the subject first. Then you get them involved in the subject. Then you get them interact with the subject. That's how people learn. And so, if you want to do it according to a new way, the speaking only takes about 15-20 minutes. Then you interact, a lot of interaction, because that's the modern way of learning. You learn by interaction. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is we have to learn to train in knowledge and skill. Why am I saying that? Because our training in the past is all knowledge. We give them some Bible teaching, we give them some lessons, and then after we finish, we think that we've done our job. Well, when you try to teach a child to walk, it's not a matter of giving him a lesson and then leaving him alone. You have to walk with him day by day. Or you teach a child to swim, you have to swim with him day by day until he learns. Or you teach a child to play the piano, you have to play with him. Or you teach any skill, you have to do it with them. And that's why you have to have morning revival with them. You cannot just tell them you have morning revival. And you have to study the Bible with them. And then if you want them to go and preach the gospel, you have to go with them. And then if you want them to prophesy, which is the third series that we're talking about now, then you have to stand with them and prophesy together with them, or to praise the Lord together with them. Then they learn. People learn by example. People don't learn by lectures, okay? So that's why in our physical learning process, in our physical life, we have the knowledge and we have the skill. You learn geography, history, mathematics, that's in your mind. It just helps to help whatever has been accumulated in the last 5,000 years to get into your mind. Well, what is to teach people about the triune God? That is to get the accumulation of all the understanding of the Bible and put it into people's mind. That's what it is. That's knowledge. But in addition to knowledge, people have to learn to live the Christian life. You have to exercise your spirit. You have to pray. Some people, they never pray after 10 years. Then how can they be a proper Christian? If you never pray, you never know the joy of praying to God and calling on His name and to study the Bible. You know, that all those are skills you have to teach them step by step. And that's why we need number 4. And that is, unless you're just helping one person, like unless you're just having one child, and then you can help him. If you get 4 or 5 people, you can't. There's no way to help them to get on the proper skill. You have to have helpers. The helpers are there to, number 1, help you to remind them so that they can remind the new ones to pick up the habit and the skill day by day. And then secondly, when you have some helpers, your perfecting or whatever you're doing is a corporate effort. It's not an individual effort. Then the last thing is, a lot of people don't know about that, or they don't like that. They don't like to get commitment from the new ones. They say, oh, new ones, I made friends with him, I baptized him, and I entice him enough to come to my home meeting, and that's all I could do. It's, if the Lord be gracious, then he comes next week to the meeting. If the Lord is not gracious, then or he has some private engagements, then he doesn't come. I can't force him. I cannot force him. Well, you cannot force anything, but you can help people by selling a program to them to make them have a commitment. You can do that. And that's what we need to learn to do, is to learn to help to get commitments. You need to get commitments from the helpers. You need to get commitments from the new ones. Now, you say, what if they commit but they don't fulfill the commitment? Well, that's to be expected. You know, you do it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they fail in their commitment. And but it's better to have a commitment at the beginning than to have no commitment. Because if you have no commitment, then suppose you have a school that has no commitment. You just come to school when you like it. It won't work. Okay. So those are 5 things you need to remember. I think the brothers will go through the manual with you and then teach you step by step what to do. I hope that the Lord will bless you. I think the Lord will bless you. You know, a lot of saints are frustrated and say, oh, I can't bear remaining fruit, I can't bear remaining fruit. Well, you look at what I just showed you. If you can't bear remaining fruit, it's because you wanted quick result. You just want something, you know, fix up and right away. Well, you need to invest. It's just like educating your children. You need to invest, and 5 years look like it's a long time, but if you would do that, then look at the result. Okay, now I give the time to the other brothers.